What's up, guys? We are back with another Mythic Legions review, and we're taking a look at a figure in the recent retailer exclusive wave. We're taking a look, well, it's Mythic, so there's only one Mythic in this batch. We're taking a look at the Undead of Vikenkfell. I'm really excited about this one for quite a few reasons. Well, first of all, it's a new figure. This isn't a reissue, this isn't a repaint, this is a new figure. It's old parts, but it's a 2.0 skeleton, not a V2, it's a 2.0 skeleton, which we haven't gotten one of these in quite some time, I believe, right? Someone's going to tell me I'm wrong, but it feels like a long time. And this also has some pretty cool packaging artwork on it as well. Being a Mythic figure and being a standard figure, it still comes in the regular packaging. So you've got them there in the tray. We've got the Necronominus insignia on one side, we've got a bio on the other, and then the back gives you cross-sell for the Necronominus wave along with the Necronominus backer card artwork, which is just pretty cool to see. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Mythic Legions retailer exclusive Undead of Vikenkfell. So we've got a 2.0 skeleton figure, which I really don't think we've gotten one of these in a while, right? And I honestly don't have a lot of this kind of figure, the 2.0 skeletons. I only got a handful of those during Advent of Decay. And what's interesting is that since Advent of Decay is where the 2.0 stuff came from, this figure, or at least this head, as mentioned by Jeremy Gerard on one of his Mythic Conversation streams, was intended to be released in Advent of Decay, or at least was created along the same time as those parts. And this definitely feels like an older kind of figure. It feels like one of those Advent of Decay figures. Now, for the folks out there that maybe aren't as familiar with some of this terminology, there's 1.0 figures, which are your standard Legions figures. There's 2.0, which have slightly different articulation and are slimmer. That's not the same as a version 2, like say the version 2 Skeleton Legion Builder, the fully bare bones skeleton. That's a reinterpretation of an older figure. So a 1.0 still is a 1.0. This is a 2.0 figure. So version 2 and 2.0, those kind of get flipped and flopped a lot. This is a 2.0 figure if you're not confused enough already. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. It's still overwhelmingly what you expect to get from Legions. Head looks up, head looks down a little bit. You've got some tilt, you've got rotation. Arms out at the shoulders. This is how this guy comes in the box, so I left the pauldrons on him. Swivel at the shoulder. Single jointed with really good range. Swiveling elbow. You've got gauntlet swivel. You've got wrist swivel and hinge, of course. The torso is the big point of difference here. So it's actually got a diaphragm cut. So he swivels. Really good tilt side to side, backwards and forward a good bit. You might have to push this to actually get it to work, but it does work fairly well on this figure. The waist is not a ball peg, though. It's just sort of a post, so it is a swivel, but it doesn't really do much for, crunch or anything. Legs go out. They kick forward. They kick backward. There is no thigh cut on the skeletons since, there's no thigh, so the bone doesn't get a cut or anything. You've got your single-jointed swiveling knee, and then for the ankles, you've still got swivel, you've got hinge, and you've got rocker. So this guy is, he's everything you would expect to get from a 2.0 skeleton figure if you're familiar with him. And he's still very similar to other Legions figures. The one big difference is that they have a different torso setup. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, this is kind of, and well, not really surprisingly so, my area of focus for this figure because, the articulation is the articulation. We know what a 2.0 figure can do. They all essentially do the same. What's really interesting with this one is that not only do we have kind of confirmation that at least part of this figure was intended to be released in a very old wave at this point, it very much is that kind of figure. Like, this feels right at home alongside anything from the Advent of Decay wave. And, that may be a good thing or a bad thing from your perspective, but I like this kind of figure. I like the 2.0 body. I prefer the 1.0, don't get me wrong. But I like the 2.0 because I like having that variance and the difference of just sizing and scaling on the shelf. Not everybody is exactly the same height. So this gives you a little bit of a difference. And, just to kind of showcase that a little bit more, here's one of our recent skeletons. So this is one of the Skeleton Legion Builder V2, and you can get an idea of what different. Obviously, he's taller in general, but overall, the bones, the structure of the figure is just not the same. This is a little bit of a different kind of 1.0 figure because, of course, it's a skeleton, so it's not the exact same as a human, so to speak. But it gives you an idea of exactly the scaling difference here and how much bigger, the thick bones, we'll say, on this 1.0 skeleton are than on our 2.0. And it's quite a difference, really, but I like having that variation there. What's really cool is that if you are into the 2.0 stuff, this is going to give you more recent and an easier way to get some of these parts, because some of this stuff is not that easy to come by anymore. I don't know that we actually even have some of this stuff in these colors, like the brown for this elven style tunic or the torso piece there. I feel like we have maybe one, like Lord Aiden has a brown chest piece, but I don't think it's this exact color, and he's certainly not easy to get anymore, or not, common anyway. And in general, some of this stuff is just not easy to come by. A lot of the 2.0 skeletons are, kind of gone. So this is maybe an interesting way to maybe get some of those parts. It is very much kind of a cobbled together look, and I feel like that works when it comes to skeletons. There's no telling what this thing was or wasn't when it was alive. If that's how skeletons even work in Mythos, I still don't think I really understand. But I like these combination of parts. Great paint, great sculpt as usual. I love the elven-looking torso, so I'm really happy to see that again, and it looks pretty good in this very almost chocolatey brown. But the big focus for me with this figure is undoubtedly the head sculpt, because it is something new. So while this figure itself is new, the head sculpt really tops it off to give it something and give you a little bit more maybe of a reason to want to get this figure. It is very similar to like the female barbarian from the Advent of Decay. It's like the same helmet, I think, with a different, we'll say, like lower jaw sticking out of it. But the very gunmetal-y color looks great with the gold inlay up there. There is a spike on the top. There is a comb, like a flourish that you can put on the top if you want. There's a swappable piece. We'll talk about that. And then he does have the big wings that stick out. And I like these. They aren't all that common any longer. We don't see a lot of this these days. They're sort of similar to the Halmir Golden Tooth wings that he has, but the colors aren't exactly the same. So if maybe you're trying to make a quick and dirty one of those, you might have an easy way of doing that with these. But I like this mix of parts. Again, it's kind of very cobbled together. He's got a lot of different colors. He's got this sort of mottled gold, and then you've got browns with silver accents, and then you've got this gunmetal stuff. So he does feel like he's just been sort of put together, which for my money, that works just fine when it comes to skeletons. I think they can look pretty much any which way and always turn out all right. So this one's pretty interesting. I like the history behind this one, knowing that this head is maybe something we could have or should have gotten years ago, but for one reason or another we didn't, and now they found a way to give it to us. And I like it. I think it looks really cool with that skeletal lower jaw just sort of drooping out of that helmet. Now, as far as accessories goes, this figure is pretty loaded, and I think that's something to kind of focus on, because just the nature of the retailer exclusives make them, by virtue of how they're being sold, more expensive than any other figure right out of the gate. There is no direct pre-order discount. So you're getting this figure at $50, and there is no way to get it cheaper. So I think the whole point of that is that, you're getting them via retailers, but they should, by virtue of that, maybe be a little bit stacked when it comes to accessories. And I think this one works pretty well in that regard. The more I look over this figure, the more possibilities come out. So to start with, we do get some extra head sculpts. So here's our first one here. And again, this one is that unreleased head with the armored skull, with the wings, and then I've got the spike on it. Again, the wings, the spike, those are removable. They are not part of the head itself, so you can mix and match. This one is one of the heads that came with the Advent of Decay 2.0 skeleton builder. It's got a little bit of a different paint scheme on it, but it's the same head. So you've got a full skull inside of a helmet. You've got these spikes where the wings could be, so you can swap the wings for these spikes, and then you've got this sort of flourish on the top. You can swap this for that spike if you want to mix and match. So I do like that. We've already mentioned the fact we've got pauldrons, which they already come on the figure. You do get some extra hands also. So the figure comes with the gripping hands on it in the box. You get the skeletal style posy, grasping, sort of gesturing hands as well. We also get soft goods. And this is a little bit different from like the normal soft goods we're getting lately, because this is not a wired cape or anything. This is the same thing that we got with Waltor, the Mythic Waltor, in the 2023 Legions Con exclusive 2-pack. So this is that sleeved fur piece. So this is kind of like a big drape. There's a sleeve here. The arm goes through that, and then one of the pauldrons secures it in the back. I like this. I like these big fur pieces. I don't know if I like it necessarily on this figure. I feel like it's a little too big, but it does work pretty well, and it is meant to just drape. So you can sort of have it hanging, and it hangs fairly well. I do like this material. I think this is the same kind of thing that like Cassia in Advent of Decay came with, and I really like this. I think that's right. I might be misremembering, but there's more of this stuff out there. I do like the fur. I'm not so sure I'll use it on this figure, though. And then we do get another head sculpt. We get this thing. So this is not a new head. It's certainly something we've seen before. So it's just a skull, but it's got all these runes on it, which are really cool. And it plays up like the Viking-esque aspect of this character, this figure. Some tampo work on this for sure. But this does look pretty good. We've seen stuff like this recently with like some of the Poxus figures, some of that tampo work having markings on their face. So similar idea. This just is a whole damn skull. So we got that. Then we've also got weapons, of course. So you've got an axe. This is just like this one of the basic axes, black with a dark wooden handle. We've got this big old sword, which I do really like. This, I believe both of these are Advent of Decay weapons. So you've got this sword, kind of an, I don't know, like an off gunmetal color. And then you've got a black handle. And then we've also got one of the standard round shields with a little bit of wear and tear on that also. A little bit of gold accent as well. And then you also get a strap. And this is a black one, this is, again, one of the older straps, which, again, kind of lends this to very much feeling like an older figure. Advent of Decay stuff, you got a black regular strap, not one of the newer belts. So, you know, again, this does come with quite a bit of stuff, and I feel like it's something to mention, specifically because of how these are sold in the pricing aspect. So, you know, you wouldn't get this at a cheaper price, so it makes sense that you should maybe get a couple things extra to make it a little bit sweeter of a deal. And I do think we're getting that here. There's a full arsenal for this figure, soft goods, and 3 total heads with some hands. There's a lot of options with just this one figure. So yeah, overall, this is a pretty solid figure. I like skeletons, so, you know, I'm kind of in to begin with, but I like 2.0 skeletons, and I don't have a lot of these. So this is a way for me to kind of, as if I need to get a few more into the collection and maybe, you know, mix and match and pop some apart and make a little bit more of a variation with my skeletal display. Because I really do like this body style just to be able to give a little bit difference of height across the Bone Boys on the shelf. Otherwise, though, I mean, it's a pretty solid figure. If you like 2.0 stuff, you like skeletons, this is definitely one for you. If you need some, we'll say, sort of older parts that are harder to find, this is probably a way to get some of that stuff, to get some pauldrons, get some torso pieces, things like that. And then again, one of the bigger things for this figure is that we got that runic sort of skull, which is really cool with that tampo design on there. And then that unreleased head from the Advent of Decay wave is a really nice way to just get that piece and get another skeleton head in the library. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legion's Undead of Vikenfell. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.